Duelists, back with a different sort of video today. I wanted to take a bit of a dive into how I'm actually constructing all the decks that you see me play on this channel and kind of my process and how you too can build all these decks if you so choose. So first off, let's start with the easy stuff. You got to find out what deck you want to play. You can check out things like from all of the secret packs. If you go to something like Master Duel Meta, you can go and see that, Invaders from Outer Space. Oh, well, if you have ad block on, and you can kind of see what are all the cards in each pack, and then by reading each of the cards in an archetype, you can kind of get a general sense of the play style. There's also this great YuYoCard.com that has a whole list of all the archetypes. So if I want to go in and see everything that's within the Paleozoic archetype, I can click on that, and it's going to show me all the cards and kind of give me a breakdown of what's going on. You can also see how robust a archetype is. This only has 11 cards, whereas others have 40, 50, even more cards in the archetype. So those are all ways that you can kind of decide what you might want to play. There's also a ton of great content creators out there who are always showing you decks. I would hope that I'm one of them, but I would recommend any of these people that I'm subscribed to. Especially love MBT, definitely love Dazif, Farf is great, Master Duel Cali, etc. All these are places that you can go to see deck profiles, including my page. Shameless plug, you're already watching. What's up? And then lastly, once you've maybe decided on an archetype or you just want to continue perusing, you can go to a few different sites to kind of see what's going on, especially in the meta game. My personal favorites are Master Duel Meta and YGO Pro Deck. Master Duel Meta, you can go to the top decks and you can see all of the recent things that have been doing well. They even say, oh, there's new lists for all these sort of things. You can search through different archetypes, and then say you click on this, you can see all the different decks. Master Duel Meta also has a tier list. So if you are caring about being as competitive as possible, this is based on tournament results. Whether the things that Master Duel Meta hosts, which is Decade, the YouTube content creator and streamer. I like him as well. So you can kind of see we have currently a tier 1, a tier 2, and then a bunch of things in tier 3. Or you could just go to YGOProDeck.com and you can start searching through all sorts of stuff. If you know what archetype maybe you want to do Springans, you can go like this and it will sort things out for you, and you can see all sorts of what's going on here, but they have all their archetypes in there as well, so you can search through that. Now, once you know exactly what archetype you want to build or what sort of deck you want to build roughly, now you want to actually construct a sort of skeleton for the list. There's a few things that I use here. One, the collective knowledge of the community, net decking. I usually, once again, go to YGO Pro and Master Duel Meta. So say I'm looking for Fluffle deck. I can search that in. I can go over here and search for Fluffle. Now I have a bunch of Fluffle decks here that I can sort via things like Master Duel, TCG, etc. And a bunch of Master Duel lists over here that we can sort through. And now I have several lists that I can compare to each other, right? Usually I'm going to prioritize things that have either primers, things that are recently topping tournaments or in Diamond 1, because I am looking for the most competitive option, right? So I would look at this list over something like this Diamond 5 list. Now, one of the things you should be wary of when you're looking at something like YGO Pro Deck is you can look for Master Duel decks, but if you want a larger sample size, or if there's just not that many Master Duel decks out yet, you can go through all of them. You just have to be careful that it doesn't have cards that are either not out yet in Master Duel, or it has a slightly different ban list, right? We have Gamma at 2 in Master Duel, but in the TCG, it's at 3. So these are things that you can easily just kind of prepare for, but it's just something to definitely note that these are different formats and you're going to have different deck building constraints, as well as the fact that TCG lists are generally built for best of 3 and we're playing in a best of 1. Finally, the last option is, like I said, those content creators. You can go through, check their channel out, see if they have a deck profile or at least a list that you can compare to all these other lists that you might be getting from MasterDuelMeta.com and YGO Pro Deck. Now, the next part is always the most fun, and that is I like to create a spreadsheet. So I will usually take, depending on how many options I have available to me, I will select probably anywhere between the top 3 or 4 to the top 10, and I will actually just write out all the cards they have in shorthand. And then by going through, I can compare and say, oh, it looks like most of these lists have 3 Penguin, so I'm definitely going to choose to run 3 Penguin. And then once you get done with all of your mainstays, right, all the things you know you're going to be at 3, or we know we're only going to have one, let's say 1 Sabres here. After we've established all that, then we can go through and find, okay, well, only about half the lists have cat. Only a few of the lists have octopus. Some of them are choosing to run things like a malicious engine as opposed to a Magician Souls engine, stuff like that. So once you kind of establish definitely all the cards you're going to have, then you can look for how you want to tweak that. And this comes out to personal preference, as well as what you think the meta might be, right? Especially even depending on where on the ladder you are. Things in Diamond look much different than they do in Gold. So this is kind of how I like to hammer things out. And that especially comes in the extra deck, because usually there's going to be about 9 to 10 slots in the extra deck that are pretty much staple, and then there's usually some flex slots, and that's where you can kind of get that personal expression out. Now, once you've established this, then we hop into Master Duel. And now we're in Master Duel. I've plugged in a rough sketch of all the cards that I might want to play. Usually I start with all the staples that we're going to run. We're generally going to be running 3 Maxi, 3 Ash, 2 Called By, maybe a Crossout, maybe a Prospeed, things like that, right? Usually there's like 10 cards that you just know you're going to play, and then you can get into your engine, right? Then I looked at the spreadsheet and I said, okay, we're definitely going to be playing 3 Dog, 3 Penguin, 2 Dolphin. And then I added in all the rough packages that I might want to play. I saw some that were playing only 2 Foolish Burial Goods, but some that were playing 3, so we'll have that. We were considering the Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer engine, so we've got our FD, we've got our Denier, and then those ones were playing it with Malicious, so we put Malicious in. Might as well try and include Scythe as possible. And I saw some were playing Droplet, some weren't. Some were playing Royal Penguin Gardens because it can search you your Fluffle Penguin, which is a starter. And then all these various one-ofs over here. The extra deck was a little bit easier. I've pretty much narrowed it down to this selection of cards. But let's just say we want to slim down our options in the main deck. We'll probably go for, maybe we want to cut some of these droplets. Maybe we don't want the DPE engine, so we can cut out the Destiny Heroes and the Scythe. And then now we're down to 44, and maybe we just want to cut down some of our numbers. We'll cut a Penguin Garden, and we'll cut a Fluffle Owl, and now we're at 42 cards, which seems pretty reasonable to me, right? And this last bit was just kind of general deck building consensus as well as personal preference, right? I decided I wanted to be a little bit more trim instead of running, the 4 or 5 cards that it would take for a Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer engine, plus that gets us down to 15 cards in the extra deck. I decided that I'm good with our hand traps and didn't need the droplets, and I decided that some of the various Fluffle names and extenders could go as well. Obviously, this is down to personal preference once again, and I'm doing this quite quickly. I'm going to adjust this because I am going to be using this list for a video, but that's roughly how I make it. And then, of course, the last consideration is budget. Now, I can make all of this except a singular UR. Not bad, but obviously I have a good amount of crafting dust stored up. The way that I usually like to go about this is if I can save up 2,000 or 3,000 gems and I know I want to make a deck, I can go into something like one of these Fluffles, or let's say I want to pick up the Frightful Tiger. We can click how to obtain, and it'll tell us that not only is it in the master pack, but there's also this Fiendish Playthings pack. And if we decide to craft one of the cards in that pack, say something like a Fright for Patchwork, it will open up that pack for us so that we have access to it, and then we can go 10 packs at a time, which is 1,000 gems a piece, to potentially pull the cards that we need. And instead of having to waste crafting points, we can potentially pull that. I'd say if we open 2,000 or 3,000 gems worth, we'd pull pretty much everything that we needed, and probably enough Ultra Dust to at least make one of these if we didn't get 2. After that, you can then decide how much extra money and gems you want to spend, and if you need to tweak it at all with things like Ultras. But I would definitely recommend, if you need to craft a majority of a deck, definitely try and open up that secret pack, go and throw multiples of 1,000 gems at it so you can get the best option for pulling hollows and stuff. So anyway, that's how I approach making all the decks that I've made on this channel and all the ones I'm going to. I hope it helped you out and you found some new resources and are going to be building a lot more decks sometime soon. Jules out.